Hey, what is going on, everybody? It's YunKs. Today, I'll be showing you guys the weighting. This is the future War Cult fusion rifle, and this is the vendor version. So let's just quickly go over the perks that are on this thing. So for the sights, I run reflex. We have accelerated coils and hip fire, perfect balance, and knee pads. I run perfect balance and rangefinder. Aiming this weapon increases its effective range. Alright, now before we get into it, I do want to mention this fusion has a pretty low charge rate with a pretty decent impact to it. Anyway, let's just get right into the gameplay. So, the weighting versus the Ultra Knife for the DPS test. It took me 5 shots to put him down, each projectile dealing 1009 damage. There are 7 projectiles with each shot, so each shot in total dealing 7063 damage, and it took me 6.8 seconds to kill him. Alright, now let's try it with accelerated coils. It still took me 5 shots, each projectile now dealing 958 damage, and of course 7 projectiles in each shot, so each shot in total dealing 6706 damage, and it took me 6.3 seconds. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about PvE with the weighting. Wait, YunKs, people actually use fusion rifles in PvE? We're moving right along into PvP, and the weighting will deal 49 damage per projectile, meaning you have to land at least 5 out of the 7 in order to kill your enemy with 1 shot with this fusion. It is the same archetype as a Saladin's Vigil, and we all know that's a very popular fusion at the moment. If you do turn accelerated coils on instead of hip fire, now your weapon will shoot like a Plan C that doesn't have accelerated coils on, if that does make any sense. So let's talk a little bit about accelerated coils. Now your fusion rifle will deal 47 damage per projectile, and you still have to land 5 in order to kill your enemy, so it doesn't really change all that much. You're still going to need 5 projectiles to land on your enemy regardless of accelerated coils or not, so accelerated coils can definitely work on this fusion. I do apologize because I don't have any gameplay footage of me using accelerated coils, and that is because I'm a fucking idiot and I forgot this weapon had it while I was getting the gameplay. I was just using hip fire. I didn't take a freaking second to look to see what perks it had again, and yeah, so that's pretty much the reason for that. But like I said, it can work on this fusion specifically. So let's talk a little bit about charge times on this thing. So without accelerated coils, your charge time will be 0.833 seconds. So you're going to have to charge it up for 0.833 seconds in order to shoot your projectiles. And with accelerated coils, your charge time will now be 0.7 seconds. So you're going to have to charge it for 0.7 before you get those projectiles out. That difference of 0.133 seconds can certainly make a difference. So on this vendor version of the weighting, you always have that option for a slightly faster charge rate for slightly decreased damage if you would like. So don't be like me and just completely forget you have that option. If you would like, mess around with it and see which you prefer better. Now let's talk a little bit about the recoil on the weighting. So with perfect balance on this thing, it has a pretty high stability on the stats, and high stability could go a pretty long ways on a fusion. It's very important. The more stability the fusion has, usually the more consistent it will be. The weighting still has a nice little kick to it though. It's going to want to kick up and to the left, it's going to want to kick straight up, and also up and to the right. Yeah, it's a little unpredictable, so just mess around with it for a bit and adjust your shots accordingly depending on how your fusion rifle is kicking for the most part. For example, if your fusion rifle is kicking up and to the left, well, aim a little down and to the right of your enemy's body, depending on the range, and you should be fine. If you're really up close to your enemy, there should be no need for this, but if you're at a tad bit further range, then you might want to aim a little down and to the right. Anyway, guys, go ahead and leave in the comments, do you have the weighting from the future War Cult? And if you do, what do you think of it? Overall, I actually had a great time with this fusion rifle. It was pretty consistent for the most part. I mean, of course, there are times of inconsistencies, but what fusions really don't have those moments? I finally got my Saladin's Vigil from Archon's Forge, so that will be the next fusion rifle I cover. I'm not going to do it as my next special weapon. I am actually currently working on Teacup Tempest as my next special weapon, and my next primary that I will be releasing will be Cryptic Dragon. So there is that. That's what you could expect from my channel, you know, sometime soon. I'll eventually get to it. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much going to wrap this one up. Thank you so much for watching. The support is much appreciated. Go ahead, leave a like if you enjoy the content, and like could go a long way. And if you haven't already, go ahead, subscribe to the channel because I will be bringing Destiny content to you guys on the daily, and I will see you next time.